Incident report. Case file 79 Epsilon. The rain hasn't stopped for 43 days in the city below. Sector 4 is turning into a rust-choked swamp. They found the synthetic at the bottom of a spillway, stripped of its cranial plating and missing the primary memory drive. It wasn't a random scavenge job. The cuts were precise, surgical, laser-sealed at the edges to prevent neurofluid from leaking and triggering an environmental hazard alarm. I stood by the edge of the water, watching the neon reflections bleed into the oil slicks, and tried to calculate the odds of a black market organ runner having this kind of finesse. The odds were zero. This was corporate. Somebody wanted what the synthetic had recorded, and they didn't care how messy the physical extraction was as long as the data remained pristine. I lit a synthetic cigarette, the harsh chemical taste coating the back of my throat, and recorded the scene with my optic implant. The victim was an obsolete model, an industrial logistics coordinator used in the deep-sea mining rigs. What would a rust bucket like that know that was worth a cranial smash? I reviewed the serial numbers etched into the chassis. Registration pointed to a shell company operating out of the orbital rings, a ghost entity that existed only on paper and in encrypted databanks. The rain hammered against my synthetic coat, sounding like static on an old radio. I crouched next to the body, my knee joints whining a protest in the damp cold, and ran a localized scan for residual electromagnetic signatures. There was a faint pulse, a decaying echo of a high-yield neural disruptor. It's a weapon illegal in all civilized sectors, designed to wipe organic minds and short-circuit synthetics without leaving a physical trace. Whoever used it was thorough, but they were also rushed. They left a shadow of the blast radius etched into the rotting concrete. I transmitted the preliminary findings to the precinct, knowing damn well the captain would bury the file before my shift was over. A dead synthetic in the lower levels doesn't warrant an investigation, just a sanitation crew. But I'm not on the precinct payroll anymore. I work for the insurers, and they hate paying out on stolen company assets. I walked back to my cruiser, my boots splashing through the toxic puddles. The city felt heavier tonight, pressed down by the smog and the relentless downpour. I needed to find the black market tech broker who specialized in decrypting stolen drives. There was only one guy left in the sector reckless enough to handle hot corporate data. A splice addict named Rix, who operated out of an abandoned hydroponics facility. The drive over was a blur of neon and concrete, the autopilot navigating the narrow, elevated highways while I reviewed the victim's last known trajectory. It had deviated from its standard transport route 3 hours before the shutdown. It had wandered into the restricted zones near the old fusion reactors. Why would a logistics bot care about dead power plants? I pulled up to the hydroponics facility. The place smelled of rotting vegetation and ozone. I kicked the corrugated metal door open. Rix was slouched over a workbench, cables trailing from the base of his skull into a terminal. He twitched as I walked in. I didn't bother with introductions. I slapped a hard cred chip on the table and asked him who was buying obsolete mining data. Rix laughed, a wet, rattling sound, and told me I was asking the wrong question. It wasn't about the mining data. It was about what the bot had seen buried in the tectonic shelf beneath the rigs. Something the orbital corporations were trying very hard to keep hidden. Something massive that was slowly waking up in the deep dark. Before Rix could elaborate, the proximity alarms on my cruiser went off. We weren't alone. The shadows in the facility seemed to lengthen, detaching themselves from the walls. Synth killers dressed in adaptive camouflage, moving with absolute silence. I drew my sidearm, the heavy kinetic pistol feeling cold in my grip. Rix panicked, trying to jack out of the terminal, but a silent slug took him through the throat before he could disconnect. His body slumped over the console, short-circuiting the display. I dove behind a rusted filtration tank as the air around me turned into a hornet's nest of high-velocity micro-shrapnel. They weren't here to negotiate. They were here to sanitize the loose ends. I calculated my ammo reserves. 12 rounds. 3 hostiles. I closed my eyes, let out a slow breath, and listened to the rhythm of their footsteps over the steady drum of the rain outside. The first one moved too fast, confident in his optic camouflage. But the rain leaking through the shattered roof outlined his silhouette in a cascade of water. I fired twice. The heavy slugs tore through the distortion field, dropping him instantly. The other 2 fanned out, their thermal lasers painting the metal tank I was hiding behind. I couldn't stay pinned. The facility was rigged with old methane lines. If a stray shot hit one, the whole block would go up in a dirty fireball. I grabbed a flare from my utility belt, cracked the igniter, and tossed it to the left. The blinding red light overwhelmed their night vision optics for a fraction of a second. I broke cover to the right, firing 3 rounds into the center mass of the nearest hostile. He went down hard, his armor sparking as the life support systems failed. The last one was waiting for me in the dark. A heavy fist connected with my jaw, shattering the bone and resetting my auditory sensors with a burst of static. I tasted copper and machine oil. The killer stood over me, leveling a plasma projector at my chest. He didn't say a word, just another faceless tool of the orbit dwellers. But as his finger tightened on the trigger, the overloaded terminal behind him exploded. Brix's blood had shorted the main capacitor. The blast threw the killer off balance. I didn't hesitate. I put my last rounds into his visor. Silence returned to the facility, broken only by the crackle of burning electronics and the endless rain. I hauled myself to my feet, my internal systems flashing critical warnings. 3 dead killers, 1 dead broker, and a secret buried deep under the ocean that was apparently worth the corporate war. I dragged myself out to the cruiser. The investigation wasn't over. It was just getting started. And recording.